Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Real Deal with Dee and Denice. Denise is celebrating her grandson's wedding, so she won't be with us today, but she sends her love to our listeners and is looking forward to being back with us next week. Before we kick off the show, I want to send a big congratulations to Ivante and Ketsia. We have two very extra special guests with us this week who are going to bring some real excitement to this episode. First off, I'd like to introduce you to my amazing mother, Andrea Roberto. But stay tuned to meet our other surprise guest in a moment. For now, say hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
All right, listeners. After we give you the deal with the House Republican Conference, we'll wrap up today's episode with some new, cool, really fun segments where you'll find my mom in the hot seat. So let's get started. Mom, give us the deal.
Okay, so in this episode, we're going to take a look at the new House Speaker, those who went against their own word to elect him, and the implications that holds for the future. We'll start today's deal with the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. And to give us the lowdown, we have straight from England, Lord Samuel Charles Taylor, sports announcer.
Hello, hello, hello. Absolute pleasure to be with you all today. I have the esteemed task of giving you the rundown.
Woohoo!
So let's begin. The race to 217 votes was a high-stakes game of musical chairs, where missing just a handful of seats could mean the end. Third round draft pick, Republican rep from Ohio, OH!
I
That's right, Mr. Jim Jordan. Yes, that's the guy who's been called a legislative terrorist by his own party. He stepped up to the plate this last week, but after an embarrassing 3 rounds, Jordan's dream of being Speaker came and went. Shock. Despite death threats from his crazed fans levied against his opponents, Jim Jordan was ultimately unable to lead his team to victory. After striking out 3 times, yes, 3 times, his team lost faith in his abilities, officially benching Jordan in a closed-door team meeting last week. But even though Jordan may not have walked away with the game-winning title of Speaker, he did walk away with another title. Jim Jordan, first and only player to ever get less than 200 votes. And the best thing is, he did it twice. The Republican team faced major setback after a series of painful losses and no clear pathway to victory. But desperate times call for desperate measures. Following major failures from their starting line, including a ball drop by House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, Republicans had to dig deep into their bench and call up fifth-string option, a minor league player. Minor league Mike Johnson, a man whose name seems intentionally hard to Google. Believe me, I've tried. Made his debut into the political big leagues after stepping up to the plate on Wednesday, October 25th. But could he do it? Could he be the one to secure enough votes, or was this just another act in the GOP circus? After nearly a month of uncertainty, Johnson's debut in the big leagues secured unanimous support for his Republican colleagues. Many attributed his win to the fact that no one knew who he was. But the games are far from over. To keep his title, Mike Johnson must avoid being ousted by his own party before the 2024 presidential cup. Can he do it? Let's take a closer look at Mike Johnson, the hard-right legal warrior turned Republican Speaker of the House, to gain some insight before going to Deidre D. Hubey and Andrea Roberto for some predictions on the upcoming political games as players gear up for the 2024 Presidential Cup. Stance at a glance. New captain of the Republic team, MAGA Mike Johnson, is an anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ+, anti-women, an election denier, a science denier, a climate denier, and a young earther, and so much more. Player profile. MAGA Mike, MAGA Mike Johnson. Position, right wing forward, second in line for the presidency. Team, Republican Party. Drafted, 5th round, signed as an anti-freedom agent in 2016. Birth date, January 30th, 1972. Birthplace, Shreveport, Louisiana, USA. Fan craze. He's known to his fan base as MAGA Mike, a reference to his alignment with Trump's slogan, Make America Great Again. Enjoys a dedicated following amongst religious extremists, far-right conservatives, and former President Trump. Player overview. Republicans' 5th round pick, MAGA Mike Johnson, is a right-wing backup, known for his extreme conservative plays and offensive tactics. Johnson's journey from being an unknown rookie in the minor leagues to a key player in the MAGA movement is nothing short of grotesque. As a fifth-string backup, Johnson flew under the radar, struggling to make a name for himself until obscurity paid off in a shocking upset during the speakership match of 2023. Johnson was signed onto the House's Republican roster in 2016 after running unopposed. But as a behind-the-scenes force on the MAGA field, he has abruptly become the leader of the Republican conference. In fact, he has already claimed the prestigious title of least experienced speaker in 140 years. Wow. Let that sink in. Johnson's unyielding commitment to defiling the Constitution, perverting the vision of our founding fathers, and rescinding rights didn't start with the House, though. His religious and conservative extremism has been a key tactic of his plays since his early days as an anti-freedom lawyer, passionately vying for a religious takeover. Untested, first-time leader MAGA Mike Johnson will now lead the charge in promoting extreme religious conservative values and ending the separation of church and state. With him at the helm, Republicans are sure to put up a fierce battle as his team vies to close the government, pass federal abortion bans, deny aid to Ukraine, and gut Social Security and Medicaid. Let's take a look at some extreme highlights to get a clear picture of this recent rookie. Debut! Because nobody knew who he was, his insignificance propelled him to the speakership. Denialist versatility. MAGA Mike hits the trifecta as an election denier, a climate change denier, and a science denier. Election denier. Not known for his aggressive offense or anything else, election denier MAGA Mike Johnson was a key player in Donald Trump's efforts to subvert the 2020 election results, even after the January 6th Capitol attack. Aside from failed nominee Jim Jordan, MAGA Mike is closer to the coup than any other player in the congressional field, earning him support and adoration, an essential talent scout agency. This bold move paid off when he was signed by the Eight and Gates to the Republican speakership in October 2023. Climate denier. MAGA Mike says fossil fuels have absolutely no impact on climate change. It's no wonder this Big Johnson has received big money from big oil and gas interests. In fact, he has received more campaign money from the oil and gas industry than any other. Science denier. Self-identified as a young earther, Mike Johnson believes the world is only 6,000 years old and that humans lived amongst dinosaurs like the Flintstones. Absolutely great TV series, but come on, let's be serious, Mike. No kidding. That is actually no joke. With a background like that, his player stats are sure to impress. Let's take a closer look. Player stats. Abortion opposition. 10 out of 10 with an A+ rating from Pro-Life America. Conservative voting record. 9.6 out of 10. Voting with Republicans at least 96% of the time and holding a lifetime rating of 92% from the American Conservative Union. Christian values in government. 9.6 out of 10. Again, receiving a 96% session score from the American Heritage Foundation and wants to remove the so-called separation of church and state. LGBTQ plus rights. Zeros across the board from the Human Rights Campaign. Voting record. 2020 election certification. Nay. Violence Against Women Act reauthorization. Nay. January 6th independent investigation. Nay. Stopgap bill to avert government shutdown. Nay. U.S. military assistance for Ukraine. Nay. Gun safety laws. Nay. Chips and Science Act. Nay. Same-sex marriage. Nay. Oh, here we go. Finally. Tax cuts for the rich. Yay. Don't say gay. Yay. Prayer in school. Yay. Voter suppression laws. Yay. Interesting voting record right there. And there you have it, folks. Whether defending the four-time indicted former president, Donald Trump, during impeachment trials, voting to overturn the 2020 election, or pushing religious conservative values against women and the LGBTQ plus community, Johnson's versatility on the field is sure to be a hallmark of his career. As for the Republican team, it's clear that the conference is undergoing a transformation with figures like the Eight and Gate and formerly faceless MAGA Mike at the forefront. The team's performance in the upcoming political games will likely be marked by a strong emphasis on religious conservative values, challenges to the status quo, and the breakdown of fundamental democratic principles. In the Republican team's upcoming fight against democracy and functional government, their offensive and defensive strategies are expected to focus on undermining election integrity, implementing restrictive and discriminatory laws, and limiting government involvement except in the areas that matter, like your bedroom, your doctor's office, your marriage, your religion, your freedom, your own body, and a bunch of other areas in your personal life. Now that we've explored Mike Johnson's player profile and political stats, it's clear that he's a highly conservative and controversial figure within the Major League Republican Conference. His strong alignment with the MAGA movement and unwavering commitment to conservative values make him a formidable player in the political movement. As the newly elected Speaker of the House, he's set to have a significant impact on the direction of the party and the legislative agenda. As the political game heats up, we'll keep a close eye on Mike Johnson and the Republican team's performance on the political field. Now it's time to pass the mic to our analysts, Dee and Andrea Roberto, for their expert commentary and insights on what we can expect from the upcoming political matches. Ladies, it's now over to you.
Thanks, Sam. Great job.
That was awesome. Thanks for doing that, Sam.
Thanks, guys. Anytime. If anyone needs me on any sports shows, I'm available. Not that often, but I'm willing to do it for the right price. And it's just something you need to learn over time, I guess. But
yeah, just one of those things that comes with doing it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Well, that was a lot to unpack. Why don't we start with the people who helped get him elected? Mom, what do you have to say about that?
Oh, I have a lot to say about that because what this really, or what people were trying to say this turned out to be, was like a test of wills between the MAGA hardliners, like Gates and his eight or whatever, and the so-called moderates, if there are any really, in the Republican Party. But there was 20 or 22, ultimately 22 of them who did not vote for Jordan. And many of them said they weren't voting for Jordan because it was an election denier. And Ken Buck, who's the representative from Colorado, I saw him on at least 5 interviews say 5 different times that in no uncertain terms would he ever vote for an election denier. And that's why he wasn't voting for Jim Jordan. Yet, he freely voted for this guy. So, I don't know what kind of principles they think they're holding. But if there was any question on who has the spine in that party, it's certainly not the moderates who caved immediately after the Jordan vote.
Yeah, and another thing the moderates said that they wanted was Ukraine aid. And as we learned in Sam's sports announcement, that is something that he need.
Yeah, that's a definite name for him. And that was like the only thing for me. I knew that no matter who was going to be speaker, they were going to be terrible, and I was going to hate them, and they were going to be awful, and probably MAGA.
This guy's been called Jim Jordan with a jacket and a smile.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
And he's not even someone that's going to bring Ukraine aid to the floor. All these divisions still exist. But the fact that November 17th, which is the deadline to which the government was extended to stay open until, is very quickly approaching after this 22-day hissy fit that they took in order to get here. So, Mom, what do you have to say about that?
Well, honestly, especially now that MAGA Mike is the speaker, I don't know that it really matters because I think they want the government to shut down. So I don't know. I think this is going to be very interesting to see because he'll only have been speaker for about 3 weeks by the time this deadline hits. And if he can't get this over the line and the government shuts down, I don't know how that reflects well on him or his party at all. And he might have a little bit of grace here because he will only have been in there 3 weeks. And look, I'm going to do all the other stuff you want me to do, but we have to keep the government open, But I don't know. Like, I don't know how hardcore he is when it comes to that kind of thing. Procedural stuff. Like, he might not, because those MAGA people wanted to shut down. That's what they were mad about McCarthy for, making that deal. Because they didn't want to, they knew that Democrats were never going to agree with their terms, and neither were not enough Republicans to ever pass it. So they just wanted it to shut down. Right. So I don't know that this speaker fight, well, the speaker fight definitely affected how November 17th will be handled by who they picked. But now that we know that they picked this guy, I don't know that it would have mattered because I think he's probably along the lines of Gates and all them who want to shut it down too.
Yeah, and if we remember, they ousted McCarthy for voting with Democrats. And as I was doing the research for this episode, one thing that became very clear is that Mike Johnson rarely ever votes for bipartisan legislation. Mind you, he's only been in the House for about 6 years. He's the least inexperienced speaker of all time. Thanks for giving him that title, Sam. He definitely earned it. So that doesn't make anything easier if they're not willing to work with Democrats on these issues. And I don't know what these people in the Biden districts are doing when they voted for this guy. Are they just hoping their constituents don't hear the quotes that I'll be sharing with you later?
Yeah, I think it's really incumbent upon Democrats to keep that fresh and constantly remind people of how they voted in this situation. Because I think what they're counting on is that the election is over a year away, and by then no one's going to care about this speaker race.
Just for reference, I didn't give him the title. He completely, truly earned it.
No doubt. But you also mentioned bringing Ukraine aid to the floor. And if you recall, that was one of the biggest things for me. I knew I was going to hate whoever it was anyway. But at least could it be somebody that would bring Ukraine aid to the floor? That's all I cared about. You know what I mean? I knew the person was going to be terrible no matter what. So can you please just get somebody who will bring Ukraine aid to the floor? Because it'll pass on the floor by a gigantic bipartisan margin. It just wouldn't pass with solely Republican votes. So if he follows the Haspert rule, he will not bring that to the floor. And he's against the Ukraine aid. So I don't know. I'm just nervous about that because we need to definitely do that.
I fully agree with you there, Andrea.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way we can abandon Ukraine at this point. It's just absurd.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree with that more. We absolutely need to bring Ukraine aid to the floor. I mean, Imagine you were just sitting in your home right now, and all of a sudden, war breaks out on the street, actual war. Your country is invaded by an authoritarian state. And then imagine asking the Western world for help, and they turn their backs on you. I mean, even if they don't care about the people, because I understand that they just do not have a humanitarian bone in their body. Since when did the Republican Party stop being Russia hawks? Since when did the Republican Party not care about standing up to Putin and these crazy leaders across the world? I don't understand where this flip has been happening.
I know, and it does seem to be pretty sudden. But it came with Trump. Because that's who Trump liked. Trump liked Kim Jong-un, Trump liked Xi, Trump liked Putin. You know what I mean? And so they're like, oh, okay, we'll just all like them too now. You know? Yeah. Erdogan. I mean, the people he chooses to praise are appalling.
Trump seemed to just do everything to get the most viewers. Anything he could do to get the most viewers.
The thing, too, about Trump is that he's not... Okay, and when we talk about foreign policy, you might hear the term rational actor. Rational actor doesn't mean you do things that are, like, smart. What we consider a rational actor in foreign policy is you can expect a state to act, and therefore its leader, to act in the way that is the best interest of their state, whatever they may think that is, and you can count on them to kind of be consistent. Okay, it's not a value judgment about whether or not it's good or bad. It's just like you count on the state to be what this state's going to be. China's going to be what it's going to be. Like the U.S. is going to be. We understand this is the way it's going to act. But with Trump on the world stage, he is not a rational actor, because what he does is act in his own best interest, which is sometimes in opposition to the country's best interest. But he is not. He doesn't care about that at all. And the founding fathers never imagined a situation like this because they expected checks and balances to work, and we didn't expect all these people that are supposed to be able to provide those checks and balances in the House and Senate to be so feckless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're absolutely impotent. They just roll over and let him do whatever he wants to do. And then like it. Like, that's the thing that gets me. You know, it's one thing to be like, I don't know, a silent bystander or whatever, which is bad enough. But to then totally jump on board with all this weird shit that he does. Like, it goes against everything they've ever been all the way up till that day. I just don't get it.
They've been using this term rhinos in politics lately. Mom, what's a rhino?
A Republican in name only.
And who is that supposed to be about? How did that come about?
Well, the hardcore hard-right Republicans call moderate Republicans, as they exist if there are any, rhinos. But now, rhinos are anybody who's not hardcore MAGA Trump 100%.
I can't believe that they are making the rhino look like that, because the rhino is a majestic animal. They are ruining the term rhino.
So what I've gathered there, Mom, is that, these MAGA extremists are the ones who call what, quote unquote, normal Republicans have always been, right?
Correct.
Which is absolutely bonkers, because we all know, okay, how I feel about Reagan. I'm sorry, the man is my mortal enemy. However, if you want to look at what a Republican kind of is, that's what you would look at, Reagan. And there is in no way that they are a Republican in any sense of the Reagan form. And correct. For them to call, those types of people rhinos is just, it really speaks to the hijacking of terms in a way.
For sure, because you're 100% right. They are the rhinos. They're the ones who are Republicans in name only. They're just using the Republican name to use the Republican Party to be able to be on ballots and get elected and everything, but there's very little about what they do and what they want to do that is Republican, traditionally.
In a similar vein, let's return to the lying liars who lied about saying that they wouldn't vote for somebody like Mike Johnson, for somebody that has a background like Mike Johnson. Can you tell us more about that? I know you've got some thoughts.
I sure do. Okay, as this speaker battle was brewing here, there seemed to be people talking about two sorts of factions that were rising up, and it was the Matt Gaetz and his 8 blocking everything, and they're the ones, that were responsible for McCarthy and wouldn't let Scalise or Emmer or any of them get in. And then when they put Jim Jordan up, actually people who I guess consider themselves moderate Republicans, whatever that means today, said no, and they weren't going to vote for Jim Jordan. Most of them saying it was because he was an election denier. And particularly Ken Buck. Ken Buck is a representative from Colorado. And I saw him in at least 5 interviews say that under no circumstances would he vote for an election denier. And that was his one requirement. And him and all the rest of them folded the very next vote. That's the difference. Because they saw something in their self-interest that made them just fold like a cheap suit. Whereas the MAGA 8 or 9 or however many of them there are, I mean, there's more than that, obviously, but the loud ones, the ones who really are going to stick up their vote like they did, they weren't budging. And I don't know if it was just fatigue and they want to just get anybody in just to have this race over with or what, but they did not hold strong and they did not keep to their word. I don't know why I would believe that they would, but I was just like, Ken Buck, even you.
Even you. Yeah, and he could have afforded to lose 4 votes. So, to try and protect some of their people, they could have strategically worked on that a bit more.
Yeah, you think.
But that just they're not interested in governing. They're just really interested in burning the entire place down. Like we said before when we talked about the November 17th deadline coming up, I don't think they want to keep this government open. Sam, what were you going to say?
You would hope that they got this guy the vote, got MAGA Mike the vote, for the goodness of the country. But realistically, that isn't what they were going for.
No. I mean, he's so extreme. You'd have to think that a lot of them are like, no, we don't want the country to go that far in that direction. But I don't know. Apparently, they don't care.
It's very apparent they don't care.
Yeah, and up to a few years ago, people like Mike Johnson were considered fringe extremists, but you can't continue to make that same claim when he's now the highest ranking Republican official in the entire United States. This man is second in line for the presidency conference, and the House Republican Conference voted unanimously to select this guy as their leader. So nobody can say that they do not associate themselves with these extremist policies and people.
Yeah, seriously, let that sink in. Second in line to the presidency. Just think about that.
I know, that's crazy.
And to your point, Mom, when you said they folded like a cheap suit and they just don't have any backbone. Speaking of suits, I just wish we could return to the times when the greatest scandal in politics was the color suit someone was wearing. Okay.
Yeah, Obama's tan suit. That was like scandal.
I wasn't around for that.
You were not, but let me tell you.
I didn't make it across the pond, but that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, he wore a tan suit in the summer and they were like, that's so disrespectful. Who would wear a tan suit to a
The man's
press
got
conference?
style.
I know. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. It was a way bigger scandal than other things that happened that you would think should be a big deal. I don't know. Just January 6th.
just as a starter.
For them, that's like the equal.
You know what? Now that we're back on the January 6th topic, we've heard election denier thrown around quite a few times. But to really drill home what that actually means, Mom, I know he was a key architect in the plot to try and subvert the election results in 2020. Can you give us some more information on that?
Sure. I mean, I don't know if I know exactly everything, but I know he wrote a brief and got like 100 and something Republican
The amicus brief, yeah.
congressmen, yeah, to go along with him for the Ken Paxton suit in Texas, which was going to nullify the results in 5 states. I think it was Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. I forget the other states, but obviously that was denied by the Supreme Court because not even they are that crazy. But it just goes to show you where he stands on that kind of thing. Like, he is a complete election denier. Completely. Like, he spouted crazy conspiracy stuff, the Sidney Powell Kraken crap. You know, like the voting machines and Cesar Chavez and all that other stuff. Like, crazy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I do want to challenge you a little bit on one thing you said. You said the Supreme Court's not even that crazy. And I totally understand what you were saying in that moment. But what I would say too is maybe, you know how it's been said about Mike Johnson that he's kind of just Jim Jordan with a plate and a smile. I feel like that's kind of how the Supreme Court is. Like, the Supreme Court is massively going against precedent and is making massive changes in really dramatic ways. But I think they're just a little bit smarter than some of the people we're seeing in the regular Republican discourse. And they choose their cases wisely so that they can achieve the same goals, but not look as extreme when they do it. Right?
Honestly,
Like, functionally overturning them instead of outright overturning them. But go ahead, please.
yeah. Well, they denied it altogether, so there was nothing in the favor of that side about their decision. You know what I mean? But I do agree with you in certain ways, because I think the ways they're terrible are bigger and beyond Donald Trump, and I don't think they give a shit about him, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to rule on his cases mostly like a normal SCOTUS would. You know what I mean? Like, like, there are some things that are just the way they are, and they would have to totally throw away all that precedent and everything. Not that they are shy about doing that, because they did it with Roe, but they can't do it with everything. So they're picking their battles, and the battle for Donald Trump is not on their agenda. They don't care. I don't think they ruled for him ever yet.
Right. These are lifetime appointments. It's the extremely conservative views that they bring with them, that they're, bringing their value-laden principles into our supposed to be objective law.
Right, and it gives them the veil of objectivity. You know what I mean? Like, when you say they're hardcore and they did this and they did that, they can say, hey, well, we ruled against Trump. We ruled against that. We ruled against the voting lines or whatever. Like, stuff that...
It's this lifetime appointment that gets me. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, but they don't support.
Oh, wait, I just want to say one thing about the lifetime appointment thing to Sam. Actually, the reason why that was to give them more objectivity, because originally the founders were thinking if they had to get elected, or they only had X amount of time and they had to be re-nominated or whatever.
Or if they're
No.
beholden to the president, the
Yeah,
person that nominated them.
Yeah, they would be beholden to whoever nominated them.
So-
So to avoid that meant you got a lifetime appointment. So now you don't have to be loyal to anybody, because no matter what you do, you're there till you die.
Yeah, that should
Or
make
retire.
them impartial.
Correct. But it obviously is not having that effect in real time all these years later now.
Mm.
Right, and that goes back to what we were saying before about how our founding fathers never imagined a scenario like this in which every, branch of government would not be vying for power. Like, they accounted for human nature when they created this.
Exactly right. That's exactly what they did. Like, they took into account, look, human nature, humans once they have power, they want to use that power, and they're not going to be afraid to do so. But the Congress does not use its power to check the president. We see that now with this stuff. And that doesn't mean that you would vote against stuff for the party and stuff like that, but it just means you're not a rubber stamp.
Right.
And now they are.
Right. And going against, again, the founding principles. I mean, they have just perverted the Constitution and the thinking of our fathers. I mean, Nick Johnson, he said out loud, like this year, that the founding fathers actually created our government structure with quote unquote biblical principles in mind. Like, I'm so sorry, sir. Where did you miss the First Amendment when you were learning about the Constitution?
I know. And the only excuse they ever use, and him included, is that the words separation of church and state are not in there. But the whole First Amendment forbids the establishment of a state religion. So it's obviously not built on biblical policies or biblical principles or whatever he said. You know what I mean? Just the fact that everybody can be whatever religion they want means that religion can't be in the laws. And when you talk about, banning abortion and stuff like that, that's all religious based. That's why he doesn't want to separate church and state, because he knows he can't get anywhere while they're separated.
Right. The Constitution, the First Amendment of the Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. End quote. Yeah. And also, as somebody who is a constitutional scholar, is a lawyer in his background, he has no excuse to not understand that to gain context into exactly what our founding fathers meant, we look at the letters that they wrote to each other and out loud after they crafted the Constitution. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas Jefferson, right. Yes, exactly. Thomas Jefferson wrote a wall of separation between church and state. That's a direct quote from Thomas Jefferson.
Right, because it's obviously what they meant. I mean, they were fleeing that.
I wonder if they're quoting Thomas Edison by accident, maybe.
I think we should go a little bit into the science denying stuff, because that's frightening.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, obviously, I did the initial spiel about MAGA Mike, and I'm wondering if one of you two could elaborate on what a young earther is?
I would love to, Sam.
Thank you, please.
Are you ready? Young earthers believe the planet is 6,000 years old, and that humans walked the earth at the same time as dinosaurs. Now, obviously, the scientific community rejects that. It's creationism.
Obviously.
Yeah. They're generally in agreement that the earth is an estimated 4.5 billion years old. And I think pseudoscience is way, way, way too generous a definition to give to creationism, because it's no science. It's not even pseudoscience. It's zero science. 100% faith, 0% science.
Yeah. And this man, in a testament to his beliefs, he filed a lawsuit on behalf of the Noah's Ark theme park.
Ken Ham. He's another one.
Where is this theme park? Because it sounds...
It's in Kentucky.
Quite spectacular.
Yeah. And I would really love to go there one day and just laugh my fucking ass off. But, it bothers me that I would pay the price of admission, though.
We'll sneak in. I'm sure there's a scalable fence.
Oh, you can see, exhibits of it online. It has a person, there's a dinosaur grazing next to them in the fields, and they're just staying there,
Hey, do you know what kind of wood they used to build Noah's Ark?
No, but it says a specific kind of wood in the Bible.
Yeah, it was 2x2. You better keep my joke in there.
Yeah, and Ken Ham, who, like we've just described, is the guy that owns and runs this Ark Encounter theme park. He said, this is a quote, we can say 100% absolutely for sure that people lived with dinosaurs. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
if I'm
yeah.
not mistaken, they believe Satan planted the fossils to make us think that the world was older than it is. It's absolute craziness. And the Ark encounter, it's just this like giant ark. They build it supposedly to the whatever was in the
Specification.
Bible. Yeah,
Yeah.
the specifications that were in the Bible, because it was like, I don't know, it gave certain measurements in there,
2x2.
and it's big. So I don't know what they thought, that because it's big, oh, now two of every animal can fit on there. Yeah, I mean, no,
Right.
two of every animal never went on there because it's impossible to build a boat big enough.
Right. Okay. Like we said, he is a young creationist. He didn't just support them in that legal battle to try and get tax subsidies and tax exemptions for the Ark encounter as if it were, a real thing. He has out loud said accounts of origins presented in Genesis 1 through 11 is a simple but factual presentation of actual events. End quote.
I'd love to ask these guys how many rhinos were on the ark.
That's funny. Mitch McConnell on the Ark. That's just insane. Like, I mean, you know what? Everybody's entitled to their own religious beliefs. Like, I don't even care that he believes that, but it's crazy that somebody's in power that believes that.
Well, I don't care that he believes that. I care that he believes that should be taught in schools, and evolution
that's what I
should
mean.
not be taught in schools.
Yeah. I mean, some ideologies are just so extreme and crazy that you can't, like, there is no moderate way to look at that. You know what I mean? Like, if you have that belief, you can't possibly rationally look at everything else in a normal kind of way. And I think it's that way with, like, I think there are evangelicals and stuff like that who I disagree with on everything and who have gross stands on everything. But they're not like, they probably understand that the earth is more than 6,000 years old. Like, I don't think most evangelicals are young earthers.
Right. I don't think they are either.
That's what I mean. He's like if you take all the extreme evangelical, that whole Christian conservative, Christian nationalist wing, and then took the very most extreme of them, he's that.
Exactly.
This reminds me of like a King Henry VIII sort of thing, who just has such radical views compared to everyone else during the time. They are such an outlier.
Yeah, that's the thing. And you know what? Deidre sort of reminds me too of a little bit of that. What was that organization you worked for? Or you volunteered with for a while that Jennifer Lawrence did the little
Represent
message for?
us.
Represent Us, right. And she did this whole thing on how it doesn't really matter how popular
Right.
a policy is or whatever. Like, it's just still only has a 30% chance, or whatever the percent chance she said, of ever
Exactly.
passing, no matter how popular it is, because they have other agendas with their donors and this and that. You know what I mean? So
Exactly. She said that there is no correlation between public opinion of an issue and whether or not it will be passed into law in Congress. So if you have 0% public support for a law, 30% chance it will pass. 100% support from the public, still only a 30% chance that it will pass.
Wow.
Right. And that's what I'm saying too. Like, it kind of relates it to me in this way, that if you're a young earther who believes the planet is 6,000 years old, you have no use for climate change. You have no use for, you know what I mean? So, like, it affects the policy, and he doesn't care what the people want because he's such a true believer that he just wants to put forth his agenda, his
Exactly.
religious agenda. It doesn't matter what the people want. Like, it doesn't matter that the people are, 90% approval on a universal background check, something like a 78% approval on red flag laws. A lot of gun safety laws are very, very popular, but have zero chance of passing the Congress because of
Yeah.
their own beliefs. Not because of what their constituents want, because they're obviously not looking at that.
Right, exactly. And when we went through Mike Johnson's player profile, sure, we, added some comedic effect, but we didn't make stuff up. Like, when we talked about religious takeover, that should be, like kind of a genuine concern coming from a man who doesn't believe there should be separation of church and state. Returning to Ken Ham, Mike Johnson was on a podcast with him, and on that podcast, Ham blamed the teaching of, quote, atheistic evolution and said that it was corrupting the youth. And then he argued that instead, church leaders and parents need to teach children how to defend the church doctrine through biblical study. And he said that to teach them all these things, that's what's been missing from the church. And Mike Johnson said, yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. So
That's insane. I mean, you can only laugh, but it's so not funny. It's terrifying.
And that's the issue. Like, you're trying to make a comedic effect out of it, but it is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I said in the end of one of our other podcast episodes, we have to laugh so we don't cry. I mean, it would be funny if it wasn't so dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a young earther that's a Speaker of the House. That is insane.
Like,
That is no different than having a flat earther.
I was just about to say that. You're one step away from flat earther.
Not even. I think they're the same. I think it's just as crazy to think the Earth
They're
is 6,000 years
both
old as to think it's flat.
Wow.
My favorite thing with the flat earthers, they have this like quote unquote documentary out, and they spent all this like thousands and thousands of dollars on this piece of equipment that was supposed
I
to go
watched that. Yeah.
and show that the globe was actually flat and that there was no curve. And then when their little instrument thing that they spent all this money on came back down and told them that the Earth was in fact curved, they said, "Oh, this must be faulty."
Yeah. That's exactly what they said. And it was really an interesting scene too, because they first looked like, oh my God, like they were just blown away that they were wrong. And then when they could not wrap their heads around the fact that they had been wrong this whole time, they were like, this equipment must be faulty. And I was like, oh my God, you were so close. You were so close to being right there. Like I thought I was going to see the turn. You know what I mean?
Oh, and
then they just,
do you remember on the Facebook profile it said famous around the globe? I had a friend at work just today, and I just made a joke saying, "Oh, the Earth's flat. What are you talking about?" And he went, "Sam, I've spent enough time on the ocean, brother. It's not flat." And I went, "Dude, I do not believe that. I promise you, I'm just cracking a joke."
Yeah, officially not a young earther.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny, Sam. But again, it just speaks to even when the science is right in front of their face, everything that they need to get to the other side of it, and it's still not enough. And that's the same principle, like you were saying, Mom, with the young earthers. We have so much evidence to we have carbon dating, we have a pretty good understanding of how old the world is. And despite all of that, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but now that you're saying that, it's worse. It's worse to be a young earther than a flat earther. Like flat earthers, like there isn't a whole, well, I mean, I guess astronomy and stuff, but I mean, like flat earthers, like that was just, of course it's not flat, and then move on. But young earthers, you know what I mean? There's just mountains and mountains and mountains of specific evidence and whole wings of science like astronomy and astrophysics and all that stuff that totally have just, like, it's just impossible that the planet is 6,000 years old. Like that.
Right.
There's so much evidence against it. I mean,
the James, do they just not believe in the James Webb Telescope too? Because that's going back, what is it? Like we're getting a snapshot of the past that we've never been able to see before because of all of the achievements and advancements that science has been able to do. And
yeah, we got like the residual of the Big Bang.
Yeah. But when it's just so simple for them to just go, No, I deny that. Like, oh my God.
I know.
And the
And
science,
then to be taken seriously.
right. And the science denialism goes into, like we said, our policies. And that's really where the problem comes to a head for me. You know what?
Absolutely.
Whatever you want to believe in, I'm concerned that you can keep your values out of it. But whatever, I'm not judging what you're believing in. But I'm definitely judging you imposing that on other people. And then look at the climate thing. His first bill that he wants to put on the floor as the new Speaker of the House is to undo the minimal amount of climate action that we've taken and slash funding for every single counter climate measure we currently have in place. And he says that it's because climate change is not real. Well, he says climate change is real, but that humans and driving cars and fossil fuels have absolutely no effect, and that climate change is just a natural thing that kind of happens over time, which the entire, scientific community, minus a very, very insignificant extremist portion who are pseudoscientists, believe that this is happening.
Is he saying this is something that happens over time? For instance, the Ice Age, which was previous to 6,000 years.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain that one.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Sam, because how do they explain that? Because they're saying that scientists can see in the ice cores that go back all of this time that this just kind of happens and it's no big deal, which first of all, it's happened at such an accelerant rate, it's nowhere near, like, it's not the same thing. And the particulates that are in the air are different. Like, and we are hitting, like, there are markers when you're going to hit a mass extinction event. For instance, when the dinosaurs died, okay, way before humans, there were markers that were hit. And once you cross these, what they're called planetary boundaries, this is when you get into the territory of some mass extinction event. And we are approaching so close to this, and we are doing absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, we had people like Trump in office who pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. I mean,
yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I think back about Jimmy Carter. When was that? In the 70s, late 70s, when he was president. And he put solar panels on the White House so that it could be, use solar energy. And he was big on it way back then. And everybody fucking shit talked him for that, And as soon as Reagan was elected, the first thing he did was take them out. That's just petty and spiteful and dumb.
Let's not get Dee just started.
Like, why would you? There we go. Reagan again.
Oh, we're winding her up.
I mean, seriously, you have no idea the damage that man did in his 2 terms. He cut taxes on the rich by such an extreme amount. I mean, by an amount that the United States had ever seen before. And we are still paying for that today. In sociology, we study this, and it was called the age of shared prosperity. Then Reagan came in, and you know what we're in now? The age of growing inequality. Because he took every kind of guardrail that was off, trickled down. Okay, let me know when that $260 billion that Bezos and Elon Musk are worth trickled down.
The tax rates after the war, when Eisenhower, who was a Republican, was president, it was as high as like 92% for the top tax bracket. But of course, that's only 92% of whatever you made over that limit, whatever it was, And and then after Eisenhower, like later when JFK was president, he lowered the top tax rate to 70%. And that was actually a pretty good move. Like, it did create some jobs, and it did do the things that they say it will do now. Then. But that didn't mean that the lower you make the taxes for the rich, the better it is for everybody. It just meant that it didn't need to be sustainable at 92%. 70% was enough.
Yeah.
Like, the sweet spot is probably around there. But now, I mean, Reagan brought down all the way to, I believe, 25%.
Holy moly.
And then, he brought it to 50% first and then went to 25. And then when Clinton became president, he brought it back up to like, I think 38.
I believe we're
And now
planning.
that's considered high.
Yes.
Yeah, from 1943 to 1963, okay, the tax rates for the top income bracket were 91% or higher.
Mhm.
In 1964, this is, like right after the JFK assassination,
Mhm.
it dropped to 77% for the top income bracket.
Okay.
And then,
so
right, and that was closer to the pre-depression rate of 67% because FDR, during to combat the depression, he was the one that brought it up to the 90s to begin with. So
Okay.
that they brought it down. That was like kind of a like there to the 70s was kind of a good range for them when they weren't combating the Great Depression. From 1965 to 1981, the tax rate remained at 70%. But then
Mhm.
in 1982, this is now when Reagan's in office, that top tax rate was cut to 50%. And then it was again cut in 1987 to 38.5%. And then again in 88 to 28%. Okay.
Oh, 28%. Okay.
And then
I was close, 25.
Okay. You were very close. And then in 92, this is when we have Clinton now, he brought it back up to 39.6%, which is not very high, with Trump having the lowest tax rate for them since.
Yeah, he brought it down below that, and so did Bush, right? Like 2000 to 2008. What was it then?
I don't know. I know Reagan's stats, okay?
Right. But I think Bush lowered it, and then Obama raised it back up to the 38 or 39% or whatever it was. But that's what I mean. Like that became high all of a sudden now.
Right.
Like it just changed. Reagan changed the whole way we even think about it.
Right.
And that policy absolutely exploded the debt and deficit. Absolutely blew it out the water, which is why George H.W. Bush, had to break his pledge for no new taxes or whatever because it was obscene. And then he lost because of it. It's Bill Clinton, yay! And then, Clinton put it back up to there. But, I mean, now we think, now the taxes are high again. They're all the way up to almost 40% for the highest earners.
Right.
Meanwhile, like the conversation should start at 70. And if you get me down to 60, I can live with that.
Yeah, especially
the universe is the answer 40.
Right. And to just add a couple of stats to this, at least 20% of working men and 29% of working women earned poverty wages in 2016. The average compensation of a CEO of a major corporation rose from about 22 times what a typical worker made in 1973 to 303 times that in 2014.
Yeah, that's just gross.
By one calculation, the CEO of Walmart earns as much in 14 days, as an average Walmart employee might earn in a lifetime. Okay?
Oh my, wow.
We're quote unquote richest country in the world. 90% of the country's wealth is commanded by less than 1% of the population. And just so we're talking about the amount of money that's the minimal amount of money that's spread between the rest of us, only 8% of U.S. households, remember that's combined income, so two incomes typically, only 8% of U.S. households have a recorded income of $200,000 or more. Now that's a lot of money, $200,000, but it's not billions of dollars, and there are only 8% of people, only 8% of households have that or more.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And those corporations aren't paying the taxes like they should do.
Right.
And some of them, I'm not going to ever sit here and defend any billionaire, to be honest with you, but some of them outright say, I don't even have a problem with paying the taxes. It's not my fault that the laws are set up to not make me pay them.
Yeah, and they're right about that. Like, the laws shouldn't be that way. Those loopholes should not exist.
Right. But again, all this money in Congress, Mr. Big Johnson getting big money from big oil and gas, then all of a sudden doesn't believe in climate change and doesn't think fossil fuels have anything to do with it. Gee.
Yeah, I can't imagine how that happened.
Okay, all right. I got a little bit off the rails there. You know what happens to me when you bring up Reagan. But I'm going to move us into our closing, new, fun, really cool segment. But before I do that, do you two have any closing thoughts on this section for us?
Actually, I'd just like to reference our senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, who we love. When he was asked about the election of MAGA Mike Johnson to the speakership, his answer was, well, MAGA loves a big Johnson.
Wow. Andrea, I'll be honest, I have reason to believe that that wasn't John Fetterman, but it was actually one of his body doubles.
Hey, it could be. I hear he has, what are we up to, 3 of them now?
I believe 3. Maybe we
Is
might
that
be pushing
triples?
4.
Body triples? Is that what that is?
Triplets.
Okay, to do something a little new this week, I've got some kind of like trivia going on for us, okay? Mom, I said you were going to be in the hot seat. Are you ready?
Woo, I'm ready. My seat is hot. Hot.
Okay, these first couple of questions are just going to be a little warm-up to get us going. All right.
Okay.
According to Mike Johnson, what are public schools teaching that he blames for school shootings?
Oh, I know that one. Evolution.
Yeah, exactly. Mike Johnson has linked school shootings to the teaching of evolution in public schools, suggesting that it promotes a lack of moral values. Interesting. All right.
I thought the film Evolution was quite good.
I did too, actually. That was a
That
really
was a good one back in the day.
Definitely pro-evolution, though.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. And nothing to do with school shootings. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
This is off topic, but while we're on the topic of school shootings really quick, when I first met Sam, he went to go tell me a joke. Sam, do you remember what that joke was?
So let's reenact. Deidre, there's been an incident. Oh my goodness, it's my brother's son's school. Something's happened.
Yeah, and then I started freaking out because, I don't know, as an American, I was like, oh my God, was it a school shooting? Are they okay? What happened?
And then I was like, no, whoa, we don't get those in England. What I was going to say was there was a kidnapping, but whoa, you've just blown me out the water right now. I was just going to say there was a kidnapping, but then the kid woke up.
But I'm bumped.
Deidre didn't find it funny at the time because she was in shock.
To say the least. Genuinely concerned. Heart rate like through the roof. Okay, back into our trivia. Next question. Mom, this Republican legislative effort aims to restrict or limit access to voting, often targeting minority communities.
They're voter suppression laws.
Correct. Voter suppression laws.
Oh, I thought I had that one. I thought it was gerrymandering.
Well, that's one way.
There is some Supreme Court cases going on about that. Mom, do you have anything to say about those?
No, I don't want to jinx it because so far the court has been ruling in our favor.
All right. On that note, we'll move into our second section of the segment. It's called Who Said It? Nazi Germany or Modern Republicans?
Uh-oh. This is going to be really tough.
To make it a little bit easier, I'm going to give you a list of 5 names, and the quotes will be from one of them.
Okay.
That list is Mike Johnson, Donald Trump, Lauren Boebert, Adolf Hitler, or Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propagandist.
Oh,
Okay.
well, that guy, I do not like that guy.
I hope none of us do, but these people might. Okay. Number 1, the blank group of people are, quote, responsible for all problems in our society.
Mm.
That's difficult. I mean,
That sounds
if
very Nazi-ish, so it's
yes,
probably a Republican.
I'm gonna go with Goebbels. Throughout history, there's been many a quote like that, and they are always the bad guy who says it. That's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna say on it.
Well, you're all right. It was definitely the bad guy. That one was Adolf Hitler, though I could understand why you might think otherwise, considering some of the rhetoric we have been seeing in modern Republican politics.
Yeah.
Number 2, we have undertaken the fight against the atheist movement, and with a few theoretical declarations, we will stamp it out.
I'm going to say MAGA Mike.
Sam?
I think you mean MAGA Mike. Yeah, I nearly said Magic Mike, but I don't want to degrade the film, so I'm gonna go MAGA Mike, and I'm on your side with that one, Andrea.
That was a really good guess, but that was Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels.
Damn.
Wow. It's sad how difficult this is.
Yeah, that was my second choice too. They had a propaganda chief like before anyone even thought about propaganda.
Right. They are propaganda.
Yeah.
Created.
Next quote. Number 3. I need loyalty. I expect loyalty.
Trump.
Hitler.
I mean, it could be Hitler, but I'm saying Trump.
Well, that was former President Donald Trump.
Hey, ding, 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 ding.
And point. Hitler also demanded, quote, loyalty and devotion, and said this quote many of times. Number 4. The more economic difficulties increase, the more immigration will be seen as a burden.
That's interesting. One more time.
The more economic difficulties increase, the more immigration will be seen as a burden.
Ooh. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene an option by any chance?
No. But Lauren Boebert is, and they hate each other, but they're kind of the same person.
I'll go for Boebert.
I don't know. Doesn't
She's
sound
really
criminal.
good in theaters, by the way.
Okay, so my options are Boebert, Trump, Hitler, Goebbels, and Johnson, right? I don't know this one, but I'm going to say Johnson.
That would be Adolf Hitler.
Oh, boy.
Correct.
All right.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Wow. I'm just surprised at how anybody in leadership could say anything that could be mistaken for something that Hitler said. Like, it's just stunning.
Yeah, we've got politicians taking a page right out of Mein Kampf.
Lovely.
Next question. Quote, make the lie big, make it simple, keep saying it, and eventually they will believe it.
Goebbels.
I'm going to go Trump.
Adolf Hitler.
You're killing us, Deidre. You're killing us.
I just picked the wrong Nazi, but at least I was...
Okay. Next one, number 6. God is on our side. The blood has been applied. We are going straight into victory.
MAGA Mike, MAGA Mike, MAGA Mike.
It does sound like MAGA Mike, but it could be Boebert. I feel like she's there. I don't know if she's a red herring or if she's going to ever say anything that you say.
Into victory, it almost sounds like a battle, so...
I think you're right, Sam, but I'm going to guess Boebert.
Okay.
That was a close call, but Mother, you are correct. That was Lauren Boebert. And she was speaking about LGBTQ people.
She's so gross.
To say the least. Next one. If you come after me, I'm coming for you.
Trump.
That was Donald Trump. Okay. Next one. Quote, who says I'm not under the special protection of God?
MAGA Mike.
Almost gives the impression that they believe they are above God. I'm
No,
gonna
I
go
think
for.
she's saying it
Oh,
like as if
okay.
he were answering, "You're not under the special protection of God."
Got ya,
And he
got ya,
says, "Well, who
got ya.
says I'm not under the special protection of God?" You know.
Andrea has clocked in with MAGA Mike. Who are you clocking in with, Sam?
Lauren Boebert.
Very good guesses. That was Adolf Hitler.
Didn't even consider that.
Crikey.
Next question. Blank is a, quote, dark harbinger of chaos and sexual anarchy that could doom even the strongest republic.
One more time. So the blank is like
The
some group
blank
of
is to
people that
cover
we
up
hate.
a factor that would give it away.
Right. So if it was the Nazis that said it, it would be Jews. But if it was
Right. If it was Trump, it would probably be immigrants.
okay, gotcha. Okay,
Um,
so now give me the quote again. Now they know that.
who said blank is a, quote, dark harbinger of chaos and sexual anarchy that could doom even the strongest republic?
Okay, definitely not Trump. Way too many big words. And definitely not Boebert. Okay. All right, Sam. So we got those eliminated.
You do.
So that leaves Goebbels, Hitler, and Johnson. I'm gonna say Johnson, and I'm gonna say he said it about gay people.
I'm gonna go for Goebbels.
Mother, you get it again. That was Mike Johnson. To fill in the blank, he said, homosexual marriage is a dark harbinger of chaos and sexual anarchy that could doom even the strongest republic.
Wow.
Wow, wow, wow.
He also said that doing so would de-emphasize the importance of traditional marriage to society, weaken it, and place our entire democratic system in jeopardy by eroding its foundation. Very interesting take from the man who is eroding the principles of our democracy.
Yeah, and is third in line for the presidency. Great. Or
Second in line.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing we need to not forget right now.
Right. This is not just some whack job
Correct.
podcaster or some idiot in his truck. This is the Speaker of the House.
The highest ranking Republican official in the United States.
Good God.
Unanimously elected by his Republican peers. Okay, final question for this round.
Okay.
Who said that a particular group of people are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country?
Hitler.
Sam?
I am leaning towards Trump right now.
All right, we've got a Trump and we've got a Hitler. And the answer is, you are both correct. Trump was referring to migrants, while Hitler was obviously referring to Jews.
Holy heck. That's crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think when people say that we should be alarmed and that we are marking a staggering amount of true fascism indicators, that we should be raising 5 alarm fires. I mean, it is really not a joke. It's not an overdramatic statement. It is exactly what I predicted in fucking, sorry for my language, 2016, when everyone's like, you're being dramatic, it's not going to get that bad, and look where we are.
I know. I was saying the same thing in 2016, especially about Roe. Like, I don't care who you like or don't like, because that person could be out in 4 years. But the people they put on the court are going to be there for a generation.
We'll fuck with them, yup. All right. Moving into our final round of political trivia, we have a mix and mashup. So it's just going to be different kinds of laws, open-ended, true or false, multiple choice, and we'll just go through a few things that we've covered.
Okay.
Number 1, true or false? Mike Johnson said that because we have default divorce laws, the sexual revolution, and radical feminism, that it created a completely amoral society.
I'm going to say true.
I'm going to say true also.
Correct. That would be true. Not too hard there. Which landmark Supreme Court case did Mike Johnson refer to as a joyous occasion?
Dobbs.
Correct. The overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
To explain to our listeners there for a second, Mom, what's Dobbs and how does it relate to Roe v. Wade? Because it sounds like that might have been the question Sam had.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
My answer was going to be Roe v. Wade, and then when you said Dobbs, I was a little confused because obviously I'm not a U.S. national.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing, really. Dobbs is just the case. It was the Dobbs case that they took to the Supreme Court and used that to overturn Roe. So we refer to Roe as Roe, and that had the laws in it that has. And now you refer to the Dobbs decision, which gave it back to the states.
Okay, understood.
Next question. What extremist theory or conspiracy theory is Mike Johnson closely aligned with? This is a multiple choice question. A. QAnon. B. The Great Replacement Theory. C. The moon landing hoax. D. 9/11 is an inside job.
We only pick one?
Only one.
All of the above.
Okay, I'm going to say the Great Replacement Theory.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for B also.
You are both correct.
Woo-hoo!
Mom, what is the Great Replacement Theory?
A lot of Christian nationalists believe that white people are
Christian
going to be
nationalists.
that white people are going to be replaced in the population by people who aren't white or a mix of things.
Which is a perversion of the data.
Completely. And also, who cares?
Right.
You know what I mean?
They do, obviously.
I know. I mean, white people I think they're either just lost the majority or going to lose the majority soon. But it's still not. White people have the majority as a white people thing. You know what I mean? But everything else, all combined together, is about to overcome them.
I was going to make a comment about it too, because, I mean, if you want to throw this part of it to me, I was just going to make the point that it's also not that white people aren't going to be the majority. White people are still going to be the majority race. The difference is, what it really is saying is that every single other race combined will make up more than 50%. But the vast majority of people by race will still be white.
Right. But that's not even, it's worse than that, because that's why I looked it up, because I knew it had more to it. But the Great Replacement Theory, in simple terms, states that welcoming immigration policies, particularly those impacting non-white immigrants, are part of a plot designed to undermine or replace the political power and culture of white people living in Western countries. Oh, and they think that Jewish elites are responsible for the plot.
What the fuck? Wow.
It's gross and weird.
Sounding real Hitlery.
Yeah, a little bit. Just
You
like
know-
a lot of this section has done.
When I was looking up, stuff to make this section, I found this one article and it was like 13 quotes, who said it, Trump or Hitler. And, the answers were at the bottom and I was going through all of them and then I get to the bottom and it said, all of these quotes were Hitler, but if you were considering that they might not be, if you can't tell the difference, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. It's so current. It's almost like fashion. Like Flares are back in fashion now. Apparently Hitler's back in fashion.
Democracy is on like a 17, 18-year decline right now. I mean, globally. It's just, you got authoritarian / fascist leaders rising up all over the place. Italy's not looking hot right now. Hungary, not cool. Not cool beans over there. I mean, anyways, here we go. Jumping back in. True or false? Mike Johnson opposes Medicare for all, but does support the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare.
Oh.
I'm going to have to say false, but surprise me, please.
Yeah, I'm going to go hopefully, and I'm going to go for true.
Sam, there is no room for your naivety in politics.
Oh. It's the hope that kills you.
No. Mike Johnson wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act. You know,
Yeah,
that thing that gave millions and millions of people across America health care.
Yeah, and I remembered what you said about him almost never voting for bipartisan legislation. So,
Yep.
although I guess that wasn't technically bipartisan. But...
Okay, next question. It's multiple choice. What did former White House official Steve Bannon call for concerning FBI Director Christopher Wray and Dr. Anthony Fauci? A, their resignation, B, their impeachment, or C, their beheading?
Their beheading.
Yeah, beheading. I remember my girlfriend talking about this quite.
Actually, Sam, good recall memory, but I wasn't talking about them when you were
Oh,
thinking about it.
yeah.
I was talking about how Trump has called for the death, the
Of Milley,
execution, yes, of General Mark Milley.
That was it. Yeah.
Okay, next question. True or false? Donald Trump once said, quote, "The people who cast the votes decide nothing. The people who count the votes decide everything."
I'm gonna go with true.
Me too.
False. That was Joseph Stalin.
Oh.
Oh. Wow. Mr. Stalin, well aligned with Mr. Trump.
Yeah, not surprising.
Okay, next question. Where did Mike Johnson get his nickname, MAGA Mike?
Oh, I know this one, so I can't answer.
Sam, you have a guess?
I guess by one of his peers during his support of Trump, but I can't elaborate any further, unfortunately.
You are correct.
Way to go, Sam. That was, in fact, the 8 and Gates Talent Agency.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, last question. True or false? Mike Johnson once tried to pass a bill declaring Louisiana the polar bear capital of the South. True or false?
The what capital of the South?
The polar bear capital of the South.
That seems so false that it has to be true.
I
Sam?
will align myself with my future mother-in-law.
Good idea, Sam.
Thankfully, it is actually false, but I think the point is that you couldn't tell.
Right.
Correct.
All right, well, that does it for us, folks.
Well, I had fun. Thanks for having me, Deidre.
Anytime. You guys are both welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. So that has been the deal with the Republican conference. You can find us on social media at @therealdeal_pod. Again, that's @therealdeal_pod. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.